Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Tara Arnold, and today we have a special guest, Melissa Denyce, and she is here to tell us about her spiritual awakening journey and how she got started. This may empower some people on this channel because she came from a very constrictive religious upbringing. There was a lot of imprisonment in her journey, and she has set herself free. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me, Tara. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, and we are so happy to have you. Could you tell us a little bit how you got out of the religious upbringing, the religious journey? Like, what steps did you take to get the courage to leave? I think that's what a lot of people are looking for is like, if I'm stuck in a situation, like no matter whether it's a religious imprisonment or whether it's an abusive relationship that you're in or a situation that you just can't seem to get out of, like what steps did you take to get out and how did you get the courage?
I love that question, and I don't think that anyone's asked me that before, but I think that the best advice I could give would be to focus. Well, I'll preface this by saying that many times when we're in a restrictive environment like that, we're anticipating the severe consequences that can happen if we leave. Our family and friends may disapprove. They may even shut us out of their lives. We're facing the loss of our community, the loss of our foundation, deconstruction from a restrictive religious environment. It can even be, you can even be facing things like culture shock, depending on how restrictive your environment was. So it's really a lot. And that's why people get overwhelmed with it, thinking about all those things and facing them all at once. So the best advice that I can give would be to try to turn your focus from the external environment that you're facing into your own internal spiritual journey, and just take some time to really start to get to know yourself and what your values actually are. Take your time. If you're deconstructing from a religion that has layers of beliefs that you have to go through and rethink, take your time. Just take all the pressure off of yourself and take your time to go through the process, figure out exactly where you're at and what you're in alignment with. And I also would recommend like using meditation techniques or visualization techniques to build up your own self-image and self-empowerment, and really tune into your own energy so that you're feeling strong and grounded within yourself. And so eventually for me, what happened is that I reached a point where it was more painful to go along with something that wasn't in alignment for me than it was to face the consequences of leaving the religion. And I got to the point where I know my own internal beliefs were so strong that I just could not continue to live what felt like a lie. And once I got to that point, I really wanted to connect with other people who may be going through the same process. And that's really what gave me the courage to put myself out there on YouTube, because I was really alone. And so many people are completely alone in the process, can't talk to their family, their friends, even their spouses in some cases. And so I just got to the point where I said, there has to be someone else who's out there who's having similar experiences and who wants to talk about these things. And we have this thing called the internet where we can connect from people around the world. And that can be really, really helpful just to learn how many people are out there who are going through the same process. So using the internet as a tool to connect with people is another piece of advice.
That's awesome. That was very well explained because there's so many that have like this uphill battle to how do I, like, where do I begin? And just those baby steps, like just going in and empowering yourself, because your religion, it taught you not to love yourself. So you had years of brainwashing and not believing that you were worthy. And so getting yourself feeling worthy before you leave. Do you also think that it's like you have to get in the mind frame that you have to risk losing everyone that you love and that you believed loved you too, even though it's like we're in this third dimension conditional love. At the time, it's still hard letting them go. But I found on my own journey, when I left my old life, that was the biggest thing. It was like, if I could just change my perception to what if I wasn't scared to lose everyone I love? Right. And what if I was enough? Did you find that you had to go through that too? It's like, I have to be willing to risk losing everyone in order to save myself.
Yes. Well, I would say from my perspective at the time, I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought that, and I almost hesitate to say this because I don't want to cause people to feel any more intimidated about the process, but at the same time, it is good to be prepared. I thought maybe I'll have a few difficult conversations, but then people will just either accept where I'm at or not, and that will be that. But it really wasn't. I mean, it was years of ongoing drama with people. And then it was my own programming coming up that had to be dealt with. So I guess I would say just be prepared for the fact that you might need help, and that's okay. I had to see a therapist for a little bit to sort through things. And even if you feel really overwhelmed by everything that's happening, you will get through it, and it is a phase that will pass, and you will, like you were just saying, focusing on making yourself be enough and really learning to live in alignment with what you truly feel and what you truly stand for can be so empowering to sort of let go of some of those attachments to the other relationships that are maybe causing so much drama in your life.
That was well said, because going through that dark night of the soul, and that's what triggers this dark night of the soul, is like leaving the old and starting something new. So on your spiritual journey, as you're expanding and you're going through this losing everything, this deconstructing of the ego and your reality in third dimension, everything's falling apart. And you're going through this dark night of the soul, sometimes it's even easier, instead of dragging your third dimension family and friends into your new reality, like you're saying, oh, I'm going to leave my religion, and we're still sharing our story with the third dimension people that we're leaving. And then they're jumping in to try to stop us from leaving. And it just makes this dark night of the soul even more difficult, because they're trying to hold you back from what you're trying to become. So as you went through your dark night of the soul, you must have got to this point where it's like, oh, they're not going to be on board with me. They're not going to accept where I'm headed. And so now I can release them and just let that go and start my new life. And by changing the vibration, because as you're going into this new spiritual awakening journey, your vibration changes. The universe kind of removes them anyway. So whether you make the conscious choice to let the old life go, or whether you wait for the universe to remove it, it's going to happen because your vibration changes. So did you find that as well, that it was like you got to a point where it's like, okay, it's safe to let them go. It's safe to just not try to convince them that, I need to do this, or why do I keep pulling them in to try to help me when they're not there to help me? They're there to put out my light.
Yeah, I did go through that, and it was really difficult for me. For about 3 years after my deconstruction, after I went public with it, I feel like I did really well at just sort of going with it and just releasing and letting people be whoever they were going to be. But it did catch up to me after that point. Just a lot of suppressed emotions that I was having about the whole process. I started experiencing a lot of fear, anxiety, anger. Some of that was coming up from my programming from childhood. And I found that I was really frustrated after 3 years. Like, why are these people still making things so difficult for me. Like, just they can't accept that this is where I'm at now, and they're going behind my back and trying to manipulate me and my family and all of these things. And I started having, like, dealing with all of these emotions about it. And that's okay, because we are human. We're having a human experience, and we can't suppress those emotions. But once I got to the point where I could recognize, okay, this is how I'm feeling and it's okay, but I need to feel it and then let it pass. And I need to start letting go of some of these things and realizing that I don't have to make this work when it's not working. And then, like you said, the universe did step in and remove some of those things from my life once I got to that point.
Oh, that's awesome. It's awesome, because when you expanded your consciousness, they're no longer in that vibration. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that keep hanging on to the past, because in some of my channeling, Saint Germain's pointing out it's so scary to let the old go. But when you let the old go, so much delicious vibrations show up in your reality, like new people and people that respect you, because as you're beginning to respect yourself, that begins to reflect back to you. So now you're able to create this wonderful life that you have. I just want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel. And a lot of you on here might already know Melissa from her YouTube channel, Love Covered Life Podcast. And if you haven't heard about her podcast, go check it out. It's I'll put the link in the description below. But do you want to tell me a little bit about your channel and what you do on there?
Yeah, I would love to. And thank you so much for that. On my channel, I interview near-death experiencers and other spiritual experiencers. So maybe anybody who's had pre-birth memories, out-of-body experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, channeling, just a whole range of things like that. And the reason why I do that is because I've had some spiritual experiences of my own. I have some pre-birth memories and a spiritually transformative experience when I was a teenager that really became the foundation for who I was, and really drove my deconstruction and everything that's led to where I am now. And so when I discovered that other people were having these types of experiences, it really pushed me into a spiritual awakening where I was able to accept what I knew was the truth and to deconstruct all of the religious beliefs that were sort of holding me back at that point. And so now I just feel really honored to be able to provide a space for people to share these profound spiritual experiences that they've had, and to play a part in getting these experiences out to the public so that more and more people can become aware of them.
Right. And leaving all the suffering and struggle that came with that old life and stepping into your new life with like this amazing YouTube channel and interviewing all these people. And your own experience that you had, it was like an out-of-body experience similar to an NDE. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like just how you manifested it, actually, like how you, because I think that would be empowering. There's some people that are at that point. They're like, I just need a sign. I just need a sign from God. And I know with your story, you asked for that sign, and we can all receive that sign. So I think sharing a little bit about your story about it might empower others to manifest that or create that in their reality as well.
Yeah, of course. I do think there's probably an easier way to go about it now than when I did. But I was raised in the Christian faith, as we were saying, a strict branch of Christianity. And I also had pre-birth memories. So I had this conflicting thing going on inside me. I had these just profound, beautiful, beyond words experiences that I was carrying with me into this life. And then I was taught a completely different thing about God or source, whatever word you're comfortable with. But of course, in Christianity, we were taught that we were taught about God and how the passages in the Bible about if you seek God with all your heart, you'll find God. And so in my child brain, how I put this together is, well, God is what I'm remembering. This is what I'm remembering. And if I seek that experience again, if I seek God with all my heart, I'm going to find that blissful experience somewhere in this world. And so I took it really literally, and my entire life became about, how can I have another spiritual experience? How can I feel that bliss again? And so I would, in the Christian language, we would call it experiencing God's presence. And so I would pray and beg for a spiritual experience every night before I went to bed. How can I please experience your presence? Because I know if I could just feel that again for one moment, my pain would all be wiped away. And so I prayed this prayer for years and nothing happened. And until I was around the age of 18 or 19. And then one night when I was lying awake in my bed, I suddenly had a spontaneous out of body experience, like not just going out of the body as many people do, but like more like a near-death experience where I went completely disconnected from my body and went up into the cosmos and experienced all kinds of things. But I would say for someone who's wanting to have a spiritual experience, rather than begging and praying for it as if it's something that you don't have, maybe try to manifest it by seeing it as something that already exists in your reality and creating the feeling of how it would feel for something like that to happen.
That is excellent. I love how you put that. And you've manifested a lot or created a lot in your reality. Do you want to share a little bit about how you've created things in your reality to get you to where you are now?
Yes. That we could spend a long time talking about that, because there's a lot of stories I could tell. I will say my journey with that actually began in the Christian church. That I joined a Word of Faith church, which is basically a law of attraction wrapped in Christian lingo. And I experienced some major, miraculous, instantaneous physical healings. And so that was my first awakening to the fact. And as these healings were happening, because I had 4 major experiences, I started to catch on to the fact that I'm creating this with my state of mind and my state of being. It's not something that's just randomly happening to me. And so that sort of opened the door for me to look outside the Christian faith. I started listening to people like Joe Dispenza and understanding exactly what is going on here. Like he calls it like the electromagnetic signal, where your thoughts send out the signal and then your feelings draw it back. So it's the combination of your state of mind with your thoughts and then your state of being with your energy. And so I started getting up in the morning and doing his meditations, and I would get up at 4:30 and meditate for like an hour, just completely immersing myself in a visualization of what I wanted my life to be like, the kind of person I wanted to be, the kind of house I wanted to live in, the job I wanted to have, the lifestyle my husband and I wanted to have. And I would create this feeling until it was so strong that I would get up and go about my day feeling as if I was already that person. And everything manifested, from little things like needing a pack of colored pencils or wanting more houseplants in my house, to manifesting the dream jobs and the dream house that my husband and I wanted. Now we're living in that house. And it is absolutely crazy, like waking up to the amount of power that you actually have, that we are creative beings and we are always creating with our state of being. So it's not like it's really something you have to learn how to do. You're already doing it. You just have to become aware of the fact that you're doing it. And then you can consciously choose the energy that you want to create from. I get to the point where I'm living it so much that I feel like I don't even need that thing anymore. Because like when I was visualizing the house, I became the person that was living in that house, and I became all of the emotions that I thought I would feel living in that house without the house. So then I'm asking myself, do I really need that house? Because I'm already feeling like empowered and happy and in love with life. And then the house will drop into your lap when you get to the point where you no longer need it, because really you're working from a level of validating and empowering yourself. So, for instance, if you want to attract love into your life, you have to learn to love yourself. You have to become that love. And then you get to the point where you feel like you don't even necessarily need the love from outside of you anymore. And then that's when it tends to show up.
Thank you for the sharing your tips on getting in alignment with your higher self to manifest and get into that vibration of receiving. And Melissa, you also do spiritual artwork, and it's really interesting because not only do you create the artwork, but you also write poetry to go with it. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my artwork is all based on experiences that I've had on the other side. Right now, I just have 2 up there so far. The first one is my best attempt to put my experience with the light into a piece of art. And the second one is Jesus in the Garden of Light, which is also a pre-birth memory of mine. And so on my website, I have the paintings for sale, prints, not the originals, and you can get them either on canvas or metal. And I also have a little piece of poetry next to the artwork that I've written to try to sum up the essence of that, I guess.
Well, that's beautiful. So if you want to check out her website, I will put the link in the description below. And also on her website, you can find her spiritual community group. So this is a group where everyone can get together and chat. And so you can check it out there. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tara. I've really enjoyed this conversation.